Welcome to Timbo Talks, a weekly podcast about work and play. I'm your host, Tim. Today, I'm talking with Kayleigh Nicole Grant, also known as Mermaid Kayleigh on Instagram. Kayleigh, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Kayleigh, your bio on Instagram says creating my dream life. Can you share with us what your dream life is? What does a day in the life of Kayleigh look like?
Oh, I love that question. I think from fairly early start, I would say somewhere around my college years, I felt a very deep longing to enjoy what I do, especially for work or to feel like I have purpose. And I've tried just regular jobs and working in restaurants and working in hotels and doing these different things, working in offices. And the level that weighed down on me was always really heavy. And it took a lot away from my spirit, my personality. And I always knew that was a goal to enjoy what I do. So kind of like the first step in that goal was moving to Hawaii because I wanted to be surrounded by the ocean, living somewhere beautiful, warm, who doesn't? And so that was my really big first step, is kind of deciding where I wanted that home base to be. And from there, I was still kind of working at these jobs that weren't completely fulfilling. A little bit better location than from Philadelphia, where I'm from, but still wasn't completely satisfied, in the sense of what I'm doing for work and what I'm doing every day. So through many little steps and just perseverance, I was able to make life work for me, kind of thing, where I would design my life around the things that I love, like working in the ocean, as well as, when I've met Cam, we knew that travel was really important to us. So we would organize group expeditions where people could come travel with us for diving. So that's something that was really important to be like, how do you make travel work for you, kind of thing, or the things that you like to do, how do you make them work for you? And so with many years of also working in the ocean tourism industry, both of us, that was a job that we actually just love the work. We want to be in the ocean every day, totally froth over it. So it's really important for that to be sustainable and long term. So this last year, right before crazy COVID pandemics, we started our own company, which is called Kaimana Ocean Safari. So those are some key things that are really important to us. As long as I'm in the ocean most days, hopefully getting to see wildlife and getting to travel as much as I can, I'm a happy girl.
So before moving to Hawaii, did you feel a pull towards the ocean? Because obviously, Hawaii is surrounded by ocean. And as you said, you want to be in the ocean each day. But before you actually moved from the mainland, I suppose you would call it, in the States to Hawaii, was that always a goal, to be living near the ocean or working in the ocean?
So what's really interesting about my story and why I love to tell it is that it kind of boils down to that it's never too late. It's never too late to get up and create that dream life, buy that ticket, move to that place, start that job, whatever that means for you. For me, I grew up in Philadelphia, so we're not so far from the coast, but it wasn't in my daily life. But I always did have a really strong yearning for the ocean. I would watch Free Willy on repeat, and The Little Mermaid, and that was like this dream, your childhood dream. And what always interests me is that there's like a quote, the way to finding yourself often as adults ends up being like exactly what you enjoyed as a child. We're kind of born with these innate things that we love, but society, if you will, kind of took over, and I ended up going to school for ecotourism and followed a different path. It was kind of like find ways to make money, find a career, go to school, that typical thing. And I was finding that for me, I wasn't happy with the way that path was going. So Hawaii was on a list of couple different places, and I wasn't sure if I was going to stay there forever. I had my eyes on Australia as well, and I was a little younger, so it's pretty easy to get a working visa, and I thought that would be my next step. But when I got here, I really fell in love, and it really just felt like home, and that was 9 years ago, and I never left.
So Hawaii is several islands. Are you on one of the smaller ones or the Great Big Island?
So I'm on the Big Island. but I first moved to Oahu and I was there for about 9 years, almost nearly my whole time. I've been here on the Big Island for only about 5 months. Right when we moved, kind of started our company right before COVID, right in early April. That's when we came over here. And I had a goal to be here for a really long time. And me and Cam, specifically, something about it. The islands are all very unique in their own different ways. If you've ever visited, people, you may know that. But for some reason, I always felt a very strong, energetic pull and attachment here. The mana, as they call it, that's the Hawaiian word for essentially spiritual energy or vibes, intuition, energy. And the mana here is very strong. It feels, yeah, for me personally, that's what really pulled me here.
So you mentioned Cam. Cam is your partner and he is an accomplished photographer. If someone visits your Instagram page, they'll see lots of photos of you swimming in the ocean that Cam has taken of you. But if they're not prepared for what they're about to see, I mean, some of the photos, they're just spectacular, really, because Australia, when we go down to the beach and we go for a swim, we see some fish, but your photos, you're swimming with really large marine animals, or what we call megafauna. And some of it is just hard to comprehend to someone who only casually, dips their toe in the ocean. Can you tell me a little bit about some of your favorite marine encounters?
Absolutely. And with our tour, Kaimana Ocean Safari, we do aim to and hope to get people a bit more connected with these marine megafauna. And for us, that's what really excites us. And I also feel it's almost, not to be cocky when you say a birthright, but something that as earthlings or beings on this planet, it's great to get to experience each other, especially in natural environments. So that's really important for us. And every day is a toss up, that's wildlife for you, or safari or anything like that. You can go looking for things and hoping, and some days are the best days and best interactions. Others are, you're not seeing anything. It's like a desert out there. But I've been lucky enough to have plenty of good days to keep my cup really full. One huge highlight that a lot of people often interview me on is our great white shark encounter, which we had off Oahu in 2019. So just last year, we had a huge 22-foot pregnant great white feeding on a dead whale carcass. And extremely beautiful moment. Amazing images were able to come out of that, which made it all around the world, which was, I believe, really special for sharks and getting maybe a little bit better of a name, especially places like Australia, where sometimes they do go back and resort to a cull. So this can sometimes help make that human-animal connection just by your images. Another really amazing encounter that, so special, just recently happened to us. As far as great whites are concerned, they're very rare to see in Hawaii. And also orcas, very rare to see in Hawaii. Especially at the Big Island, we actually do get sperm whales from time to time, maybe 2-3 times a year. They'll cruise by. And we had, hoped and dreamed, and we're big on manifesting. So we're pulling out all the tricks to hope to get to see orcas one day. And seeing them here in our home of Hawaii was very spectacular and felt a bit like a welcome to the island. Just recently we had this interaction in June, last day of June. So we go out on the water just looking for kind of anything, and we come across a pod of sperm whales. The sperm whales were acting a bit erratic for their normal behavior. There was like a lot of like close huddling between the animals, and they were kind of like timid, but like kind of turning on their sides. When I say erratic, like we would see the flukes come up and they were a bit skittish and changed direction a lot. So we thought that was odd, just how close in proximity they were to each other, just really huddled together. But we didn't think much of it. We're just hanging out, and next thing we kind of like turn around and there's these huge black dorsals popping up, and they slowly move towards us, hide like next to our boat, and then take down one of the sperm whales. And we were able to observe a lot of this from on top of the boat. Because it all happened so fast, we only have I think Cam grabbed his camera phone camera for a second and got a little bit of a clip, but we saw an orca thrashing, take down a sperm whale, leave it in a pool of blood, take it down to the depths, and then an orca start breaching, and we were all just basically left completely speechless. So those two experiences are at the top of my bucket list, to being able to see such amazing two separate different forms of predation. I think it's always really interesting to come across unique behavior, and predation is definitely one of those things.
That's really unusual to see orca, sperm whale, and, well, the great white was a separate encounter, but to be in a location where that is even possible is really unusual.
Yeah, I think it's only been recorded, I believe, I want to say New Zealand before, maybe Dominica. I know they have a lot of sperm whales there. I'm not sure, but one of my roommates knew they had heard it happen somewhere else, but extremely rare globally, for sure.
A couple of my freediving acquaintances actually saw orca predation on a dolphin and even a tiger shark that was off Ningaloo Reef, but that was very unusual too. But they didn't see sperm whales.
It always fascinates me to, like right place, right time, and how often does it happen when we're not there? It's just that one day that we were there at the right place, and we had talked about it so often about seeing orca and seeing sperm whales and even seeing them predate on sperm whales that we swear we just manifested it with. Like, our whole house of roommates had been talking about seeing something like that, and then it literally happens like a month later. So something to be said for manifesting.
So your encounter with the great white shark, 22 feet long, that is an enormous shark. So you were just simply in the right place at the right time to see that, because as you said, that shark was feeding on a whale carcass.
Yeah, a lot had to line up for that to kind of happen the way it did. For example, it was January, and in Hawaii, we can get, it's our winter months. You can get really high swells. You can get a lot of wind. Somehow it was just flat like a lake, even 12 miles out where we were. And we knew there was a whale carcass out there. So our intention was to go document. I was working at One Ocean Diving at the time, and they're heavy in shark conservation. And our aim was to go document the sharks that were out there and observe different behaviors, see what species might pop up. Most people are interacting with sharks about 3 to 5 miles off of the coast of Hawaii, different islands in Hawaii. So to go out that far and see what animals could pop up. But to say that I would have thought I would have seen a great white, and definitely one to that size, I would have never believed it.
Now, of course, you didn't just see it from the boat. You and your crew actually slipped into the water with it. Can you describe the thought process that leads up to the decision to enter the water?
Well, for me, that was my first and only great white I've seen. So, and I've worked with sharks for, about 5 years before that happened. So I know, a bit about them, their behavior, and I would take people diving with sharks all the time. But I was still very nervous. Like, we'll get that clear. Any animal that's large, I have respect for that animal. It would be intimidating for me to see them jump in and interact. But I was with Ocean and Juan, who own One Ocean Diving, and they worked with sharks a lot longer than me, and they have swam freely and in cages with great whites, mainly in Guadalupe and Mexico. So they had a lot of experience, and kind of trust them a lot when it comes to the shark stuff. So I did let them get in first. We'll just say that. Then I was quickly behind, but I was very surprised at what I saw when I did get in. It sounds so odd to say, but probably the most docile shark that I've ever met in my entire life. Gentle, though she was so large, she was so gentle and mellow, and yeah, it was a beautiful interaction. I didn't feel any aggression from her whatsoever. Even her having the carcass, she knew that that was her food. It was like she just knew, this is not my food source whatsoever. And she would come up and check out the boat a little bit. I think because of size and the scent in the water, they're really, maybe smarter than we give them credit for. She knows, okay, there's a carcass around here and it's easy prey, and I don't have to chase around these dolphins. Yeah, there was dolphins there, 2 rough-toothed dolphins. So just amazing that she was that aware and intelligent. It's kind of hard to describe unless you've swum with sharks, because everybody sort of thinks that they're mindless man-eaters. That's just not the case, or else interactions like that would not be possible.
So how did it actually feel to be swimming alongside such a large creature like that?
Very humbling is the best word I could kind of use to describe it. All inspiring, really unbelievable. I never would have thought that I would be so lucky, so blessed to have an opportunity like that, and kind of gets you addicted. You're kind of frothed on it. Like, I wish that would happen again. It's like getting struck by lightning twice or something. But it felt really humbling. It felt really natural. Like I said, I was mind blown. Like, I remember looking at Cam and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. But it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. She would come up to us, and just swim right by. And she was so huge. It's so undescribable. I wish everyone could experience that, because I think they would really have a different outlook. And it's just to mention to anybody that could be listening, it's not that I'm saying go jump in with white sharks or any shark without a professional, first off, but white sharks, if that was a younger, maybe juvenile male, and maybe the area he's in, he's transitioning his diet into bigger animals like mammals, or from fish and rays, or they're looking potentially mating, or you never know, that shark could be desperate, hasn't eaten in a long time. So in this situation, it was very beautiful, mellow, relaxing. We had a very large shark that was very pregnant. I think a lot of women that have been pregnant out there can probably attest to, they don't want to run a marathon at the time. It's kind of a very slow, you're relaxing, you're taking it easy. And she had a big buffet there, so we were of no interest to her at that point.
Yes, you mentioned juvenile white sharks, and you made the observation if they're transitioning their diet, there could be a problem. So what I'm hearing from you is that you're keenly aware about the correct context to swim with a shark. It's not just there's a shark, let's jump in. There's a whole bunch of factors that you obviously know about. How did you learn about all these different aspects of shark encounters?
For me, it was working with them. Again, at One Ocean with Ocean and One. So I got to learn from people that had a lot of experience. I would definitely recommend for anybody to go and swim with a shark. I think it's a really great experience. It can definitely help you feel a bit more connected to that animal, and can be scary for people. So face your fears, get to interact, but do it with professionals. And there's a lot of really great tips and tricks, like using eye contact is very huge when it comes to sharks. Trying not to splash. You kind of want to be good in the water a bit, a little bit more maybe comfortable. Maybe you're not learning to swim, right, out in a shark dive, or make sure that the organization that you're going with knows your abilities, and check in with them. And eye contact. Sharks will come up to us often on tours, and one of the additional tips that I'll give the guests is just to use their fins as well, just extending a fin out. Or it's always nice if you have a GoPro pole, extending that out. Just something plastic or non-body part to put in between you and that animal. There are certain shark species like tigers sometimes. They're more shy than anything, but every once in a while, if you get one that is a bit more desperate, or maybe competing with other sharks in the area, might come up a bit closer to you. And with those particular species, it's best to put the hand on top of the head. I actually just posted a video of this on Instagram too. They have a very broad head, but you want to kind of like get up and over them, stiff arm them, and get to the side of them, away from the mouth generally. And if you run into a shark, that you're not expecting to, you're not going out on a tour to go swim with the sharks, but you're in the water and a shark comes, just again, eye contact, eye contact, eye contact. If you can, keep your body parts, closer to you, and any fins or surfboard or GoPro pole towards the animal, and just make your way out of the water, which I'm sure people would do. But I do recommend doing it. It's a beautiful experience. Go with professionals. I learned so much from One Ocean Diving. I would definitely recommend that company because I know all the ins and outs. Tahiti is a great place to swim with sharks as well. My friends at Moria Moana Tours, they get little black tips in the lagoon, which are super cute. Out here, we tend to see oceanic whitetips, which can be a bit more curious at times. So they kind of come up close, and that's why we sometimes have to use our fins and other things like that to kind of lose their interest in us.
Wow, there was a lot of information you just shared there. I'm going to try and unpack some of it.
Sorry, I just, yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. I love your enthusiasm, and it's just incredible that you get to encounter so many different types of creatures. The last one you mentioned, an oceanic white tip. That's quite a rare shark to see. It just swims in the open ocean, doesn't it? It normally doesn't hang around
Yeah.
reefs. And that's quite a
Very sad.
fast shark too, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is sad that you do see less and less because of where they're at. They're often caught and they're, are endangered because of overfishing at the moment. So, where a lot of guys are going to be fishing for very large fish, maybe they're looking for ahi is obviously big tuna or number one and marlin and things that you have to go into deeper water to get. And each shark species is going to be completely different in behavior, how they interact with us, where they like to hang out in the ocean, and all of that. So with the oceanic whitetips, they stay in deeper water and are just very subjected to getting caught on long line. Their numbers are dwindling. It's very, very sad. And I kind of think they get a worse reputation than they deserve because I've heard bad stories about them, but I've had great interactions out here in Hawaii and Tahiti, and I've only ever seen them, yeah, be curious, but pretty mellow interactions. So I think if you follow a lot of those kind of like Shark 101 guidelines, you can safely interact with these species.
Now, you mentioned a situation and you mentioned it so casually as if it was no big deal, but I think we need to talk about it. You're swimming with sharks, in particular tiger sharks. You sometimes, I mean, you can see this on your Instagram page, but sometimes you need to redirect them. You described putting your hand out and placing it on the shark's head to redirect it.
Yeah.
You do that because their curiosity is getting the better of them.
Yeah, well, a lot of times too, we're in that position. Cam likes to spearfish, so we'll go out, I'll watch his back and we'll be spearfishing. So anybody that is fishing or spearfishing, which is spearfishing is the best way if you're going to catch seafood to go out and hunt and catch your own food. But if you're going to do that, then you should expect that you are in the shark's territory and things they could get a little bit more curious and excited. And because we have that experience, wouldn't poke the sharks with the spear gun. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone, but I understand it can get scary in the moment. But maybe if you know what to do, then you can avoid that. But always best, again, just to like quick go over it. If the shark's coming up towards you, they have a very large square head. So you have a lot of room there to actually put your hand down on top of it and keep that arm really straight. So it's kind of like you're always going to get pushed back. They can't come any closer if that arm is like a Heisman, just stiff arm them. Yeah. And then you can kind of like guide them away. We like to call it a redirection in the shark world, little guidance away. Most shark species, all you need is like a fin or a GoPro and eye contact. Just the tigers sometimes requires a little more hands-on, And if you're spearfishing and they want your fish, I mean, either get it out of the water or just give it to them. Don't go toe to toe with a wild animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still want to talk about redirection. I'm super impressed about this. Like when I think about, say, a small child and they're learning how to ride a bike for the first time without training wheels, it's terrifying for a child. It's very wobbly. They could fall off. I mean, you talk about redirection. You're quite comfortable with it, but there must have been a time in your life where it was your first redirection, your first tiger shark redirection. So was that alarming to do that for the first time?
I think just like whites, tigers often get a really bad reputation. And also, you're not going to redirect a white shark. So like the redirection is basically specifically for tigers. With like whites, you would want to, just get out of there, but don't panic, don't splash, anything like that. As hectic as you may feel on the inside, it's always just best to stay as calm as possible. That's probably in any chaotic moment, but definitely for sharks because they can sense that energy, and that raise in energy just could elicit a little bit extra attention, and that's not what you want. So Always as calm as possible. Yeah, my first time having a tiger get that curious, it's hard because I had a lot of experience with other sharks. I would definitely say, if you are someone that goes in the ocean a lot, or somewhere that you live, like Australia, or like Hawaii, that that there's tiger sharks there, try to get in the water with some smaller sharks and kind of get like comfortable and used to their behavior. So then if you do take that step up and come across tiger sharks, and they're mainly on the reef because that's where they hunt, then you kind of have a little bit of an intro to sharks. So I would say start with other species, but yeah, they get a lot, of bad credit where it's not necessarily due. There's tiger shark feeding dives all over the world, like Tiger Beach in Bahamas, and you'd be surprised. It's actually quite mellow and quite peaceful, and they kind of actually learn like what to do and what people are, and they really don't look at you as a food source. So but there is a great resource too. My good friend Ocean Ramsey has a book that is What You Should Know About Sharks. And she does go into some more descriptive things on redirection. But yeah, it's kind of like that first time you do it, you get more and more used to it every time, just like the riding the bike.
Yeah, so the redirection, Ocean, she actually taught you that technique, did she?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Her and Juan Ocean. My very first tiger over there was Roxy, who's so sweet. She has broken jaw, and it's very sad. She's been tagged. She has a broken jaw. She's definitely been caught by multiple fishermen. So almost every time she reappears each year, she has some kind of net on her. I don't know where she goes, but she's a survivor, that one.
Wow. Yeah, I did get to swim with a tiger shark a couple of years ago. Before it happened, I knew the tiger shark was in the water and I was super nervous beforehand.
Mm.
But then when I saw it, I was amazed. But then the tiger shark didn't stick around very long. And afterwards, I was disappointed that it didn't stick around very long.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's actually hard to get to see a shark. People don't understand that. People think, oh, like, I'm swimming here. That maybe the average Joe, somebody that doesn't spend a lot of time in the water or the ocean, thinks that, sharks are everywhere. It's like, it's actually so rare to see a shark. And that's really sad because sharks are a really important sign of a healthy ecosystem. So to not see them is more concerning. And then when you actually get to see them, you're like, they're really not interested in us. They're really not scary. Like, until people learn for themselves or do it for themselves, they can only take our word for it so much,
Yeah, one of the things that amazes me about the ocean is when we're on land, like the thought of doing something in the ocean might make us nervous. But like once we're actually in the ocean and seeing a shark or whatever, all our reservations sort of melt away. It's hard to describe. It's the thought of something is just often completely different to when it happens to you.
Well, our mind is like our worst enemy. You're always going to build it up worse. It's like if you got in an argument with your friend or something, or your friend said something that bothered you, you're building it up in your head. They've forgotten about it. They're over it, So same things with the ocean. I see a lot of people hype themselves out of it. Like they think they're just going to sink down. If I tell them, oh, we're in, 3,000 feet of water, that can kind of like scare people. I'm like, you're fine. There's probably nothing around here, but the ocean is very healing. So once you do pull the trigger and jump in, it's a lot more fun than you think.
So your ocean-based dream life, you're a human being like the rest of us, so you can't live in the ocean. You have to spend time on land. How does your time in the ocean affect your time on the land? Do you think it changes the way you move through your life?
I definitely see myself a little bit more on edge if I'm not getting that full ocean time. So for me, it's actually like it's a very healing property. Right now we're really slow with everything with COVID. So we're not getting as many tourists and we're not getting that time out there. And for me, and everybody's totally different, but for me, I just really froth on it. And I really need that time out there. And I could be out there every day. And even for me, it's not even just like taking a little swim, which is fun here and there, but like I want to be in the deep pelagic zone. Like I want to find big animals. I could be on a boat just searching, just looking around, even if you don't find anything, for 10 hours. Like just the search to me is so fun. And yeah, I just like being out there. It's really healing. But yeah, so I try to get as much of that as possible. And for me, it's just a balance of getting in the ocean as much as possible.
So when people meet you for the first time or get to know you, how do people generally respond to what you do? Is there a pattern or everyone responds differently? Because it is really quite spectacular what you do. We'll have a link in the show notes to your social account. People really need to see this. But
Oh,
how do
thanks.
people respond to your work?
It really depends what they learn about us. But if the first thing that they're hearing is that we swim with a great white, I've actually been called on TV like a crazy person. You're psychotic to go out there and do that, you know? And I'm like, what, to be in nature? Like, to be a part of nature? No, that's who we are, like, fundamentally, you know? The rest of it is just man made. So, yeah, I think the worst reactions we've got is that we're crazy people to swim with sharks. I would never do that. You have a death wish. You know, we've been trolled on the internet, but most people are really fascinated in a way that they want to do it. And I think that's I obviously love that reaction the most. And I think is the most real, because we aren't separate from nature, but the way that society is kind of built up for us, oftentimes that separation gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, if you're in a fully cement grid city, you might feel fearful or unconnected from these animals. So we've gotten the full range of responses.
And
Most
so
people want to join in, and I like that.
that's good. So how do you deal with negativity? You just let it roll off you or ignore it?
Well, when we first had the white shark, a lot of people there was mainly so many supportive people. And I think the ultimate thing that we got out of it, positivity for sharks around the world and changing those perceptions. And that's what we were super about with conservation. I think that was phenomenal. I mean, I got to go on different television shows, do different podcasts and magazines, and speak up for sharks. And that's the most important thing for us. So you can let negativity roll off you, but we definitely had some hate on, you guys are crazy, you have a death wish, you know, you're psychotic or whatever. I try to laugh it off, but sometimes I just block people, you know, if they're really negative. I'm like, I don't need that in my vibe. So
Yeah,
just
of
bye,
course.
that's you do you, you know, I'll do my thing over here.
Yeah. What do you hope people feel though when they see what you do? The opposite to negativity. Look, what do you want them to take away from the work you do?
I would love for people to just go into the ocean at whatever capacity they feel comfortable, but I think it is such a healing place and like a birthright for people should get to experience this wondrous part of the planet that makes up most of the planet. We're made of water. We need water to survive. We drink water. We swim in the ocean. Like, to get that human connection to water is more valuable on like a spiritual, physical, you know, emotional level than people give it credit for. I think that's why I can get more cranky if I don't have my days in the ocean, because it's become such a good place of release for me. And these animals, you know, and I want to raise awareness on the animals as well, because sharks aren't man-eating monsters. You know, I definitely am against culling, you know, shark fishing, definitely, you know, release them right away. It can happen. I understand, you know, I want to make people fall in love with them, and also cetaceans, and not wanting to put them in cages. And especially kids, they love the ocean so much and they froth on the animals. And it's like, get them to experience them and not putting them in a cage like our entertainment, you know, I'm very against all of that stuff. And so I want to get people out there to experience it so that they'll be against any of the cruelties, you know, or even see the plastic that's in the ocean. So you have to have people fall in love with it in order to want to protect it. So, you know, on our tours and on our Instagrams, that's what we try to talk about. It's like, here's this beautiful image, but this can only be possible if we do this and this.
I like that expression you use, froth on. Someone once called me a frother, and
Yeah,
I
that's a
thought they were being
compliment.
complimentary. So
I consider it that way. I love like the excitement, you know, good energy, or just being passionate about something.
yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I like that angle you're taking about helping people fall in love with the ocean. One of the most uplifting things I saw a couple of years ago, I was on a boat. There was a whale shark in the water. There was a group of us who were snorkelers, and we slipped in the water with the whale shark. But in our group, there was an elderly lady. She was probably in her late 70s, and she, you know, struggled to swim, but she had a wetsuit and, you know, her fins on, and we just gently guided her to a place where she could actually see the whale sharks swim past her.
Oh, that's
And
so sweet.
she was almost crying, and we were almost crying from her reaction to it. So I guess, I mean, you can never be too old to start loving the
No.
ocean or having these
Mm.
experiences.
Absolutely.
You have a safari business with Cam, you take people out. So would you describe that as ecotourism?
Well, we don't use any single-use plastic for our snacks and drinks and baseline. In that way, we're not, potentially putting any more waste. We really encourage people to bring their reusable bottles and things like that. The purpose for us is to really connect people with the ocean. And while we're on the tours, we speak to them about sort of a lot of the issues that I've mentioned, like definitely single-use plastic or ways that they can cut out waste in their own lives. And we definitely like to talk a lot about shark finning. If we're lucky enough to see a shark that day, either way, we're usually chatting to them about sharks. That's really huge for us. And captivity. So I would definitely consider us ecotourism because it's helping change people's perceptions and hopefully carrying that back into their daily lives with their daily choices as well. And we have a little card too on our boat that shows, if you're going to eat seafood, which ones are more sustainable, which ones to avoid. Because sometimes if you come, I've found anyway, I just try to be really like patient with people and compassionate because I found that if you come at people and you're like, be a vegan now, like they're going to fully reject that. You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, well, what if you live in a place where you can spearfish? Then maybe try that. Or if you knew that this was worse than this option, would you choose the more eco-friendly option? Or for example, me and Cam eat meat here, but we eat axis venison that is from Molokai, that is non-native animal that's bad for the local flora and fauna. So if you knew those things and made those choices, and we're all not perfect, but if there was one thing we could inspire somebody to cut out and change in their daily life, that's our goal every time. And not to berate people or get mad at people, but it's all about education and it's all about compassion because they maybe don't even know, like I've seen too many negative, somebody called it ecoterrorism. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard the term. I'm unsure what it means because when I think of terrorism, I think of people blowing things up. So I'm not sure what
Yeah.
exactly eco-terrorism means.
I don't know if they mean I don't know what they mean, but I do not want to terrorize anyone. I just want to educate people. So that's our huge goal. Yeah. Meet people on their level too. You get a lot further that way. People message us back all the time. Oh yeah, I tried that tip, I got those Melly wraps. I don't use saran wrap anymore, and just little tips like that just make me happy. You don't know how long or whose friend they're telling after that. Yeah, it's really nice.
Excellent. I think the term eco-terrorism might be a bit of an exaggeration though, because I can't really think of
Of
who.
who does that?
I mean, there's the organisation Sea Shepherd, and people sometimes accuse them of being terrorists, but I don't even regard them as terrorists.
I'm not sure. Because I don't follow too closely like PETA and some of these sites that kind of get a negative connotation.
Sure.
So all I know is I just try to be kind, compassionate, and not target people or terrorize anyone or get further with education.
Yeah, because most of us are disconnected from the ocean, we often forget when it comes to seafood, pulling all that biomass out of the ocean. It's wild fish stock, it's non-replenishable, and we often just don't think about the fact that it's a wild environment.
Yeah.
Like it's
And
not a
how
bit.
much discarding fishing gear is the number one pollutant of plastic and whatnot in the entire ocean. It's more than although our big issues are our own products, but it's huge nets and all this discarded fishing gear, and that's the number one pollutant. So it's really hard to have sustainable seafood unless, I believe, if you're going out and hunting it yourself.
Yeah, the way people used to do it.
Yeah. And I know that's not an option for everyone. So I would mention here that you could visit seafoodwatch.org if you are someone that is not willing to give up seafood all the way, which is always, the number one best option, and you're not in a place where you can hunt your own seafood. Seafoodwatch.org will at least tell you which species are rated at which levels and some options you might find more sustainable than others.
Right. So when you take guests out on your boat, you and Cam, I mean, the ocean runs to its own timetable, and the desire might be to see a shark, a whale, any kind of cetacean, but how do you find the creatures? Do you basically just sit out there and you wait until something comes along?
So that's basically why we named it safari style, to hopefully give people an idea, a realistic idea of how the ocean works. And so that we are often covering a lot of ground, and a lot of times we've had amazing luck, but we have had those days where, oh, we're not really seeing anything out in the deep blue. Let's go to our reefs. And then we're in our coral reef environment. And luckily here we do have a lot of dolphins onshore, spinners, bottlenose. We also have manta rays and turtles. So that's always fun. But we don't mind spending some time looking for larger animals offshore. And I do live in a very beautiful, very abundant place. That's why I am so passionate about keeping it that way, because it's fantastic. So more often than not, we have a lot of great luck, but it is a safari. You are looking around. And some guests have come out with us a couple times because they wanted to see a shark, couldn't see one on those 3 tours. Maybe we found dolphins or something else, but then they came out on the 4th tour and then, okay, there's a shark for you. So, you know, you got to spend your time. You got to put your time in. That's how the safari is.
Yeah, so it's unrealistic to fly into a place and expect to see megafauna within, like, you might be lucky, like one day.
Yeah, that happens to some people.
Yes.
And then, but please don't, come and request orcas from me, because if I can't deliver, that'll just break my heart.
So this has been a fantastic conversation, Kayleigh. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love it. I haven't done a podcast in a while, so it's really fun to just chat all things about the ocean. Really great place to come see a little bit more about our business would be kaimanaoceansafari.com. You can also find that link on my Instagram, which is @mermaid_Kayleigh. My husband's is Cam Grant Photography, and our Instagram for our company is Kaimana Ocean Safari.
Excellent. I'll put all those in the show notes for the episode
thank you.
too. Kayleigh Nicole Grant, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Tim. Tell Anita, right, too, that we said hi.
Yes, definitely. She is very much into raising awareness about the plastic problem. So I'm glad you mentioned that as well.
She's super passionate. I love all of her posts, and she takes action, goes out to these stores and speaks with them. I love that.
Yeah, we need more people like you and more people like her.
And yourself. Thank you so much for the podcast.
Okay, thanks, Kayleigh. Thanks for listening to Timbo Talks. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on Spotify or YouTube. Alternatively, please use your favourite podcast app to find Timbo Talks. You can also find me on Twitter or Instagram as Timbo Horan, TimboHoran. Until next time.